To me, being an entrepreneur is like a little kid, a 4-year-old who first goes to play soccer. That kid is so excited. That kid is not excited about which way he kicks the ball. Doesn't matter. Usually he lands up scoring the ball in the wrong side anyway. So winning and losing, I think, is a score that other people keep. A true entrepreneur is the one who just loves playing. I grew up in India. So when I say I came to this country with $8 in my pocket, it sounds very dramatic. But in some ways, I grew up in a very nurturing family. We weren't rich, but it was a very nurturing family. But still, it's a big reach. You come with $8 in your pocket. You never been in a plane before. You never seen a television set. You never owned a phone. I came from India with an undergraduate degree in engineering. I came here to do my master's. I did master's for a year, taught for a year. And then I thought I was going to be a professor, so got a PhD. And then I started working for Toronto in a company. And that happened mostly because somebody I knew there said, hey, why don't you come up here? It's a lot of fun. We moved to Boston in 1984, about 25 years ago, with the intention of actually starting companies. It sort of sounds a little naive, a couple of people walking to a big city and saying, hey, I'm going to do some companies. But actually it worked out. Over the next 3 years, because I had a very deep training in technology, PhD, I worked in sales and marketing and finance, and finally left in 87 and started a company called Coral Networks, which didn't quite work out, but was a great learning experience. And then I started a company called Cascade Communications in 1990, which was very successful. By 97, we had 1,000 people, $500 million business. And then we merged that company with another company for $3.7 billion. And then I started Sycamore. And since then, I've probably about 6 companies, all the way from telecommunications to the latest one I'm doing is in rechargeable batteries. A lot of the companies that I've done and things that I've done, I think one thing probably that really helps me out is optimism. I'm a very optimistic guy. I think I always feel like things are going to work out. And so, you get hit with something and it looks like the end of the world. But typically, if you can just sit on it for a little bit, things don't look as bad. And so I think setbacks, when you deal with setbacks is a way to expand your comfort zone. You feel more and more comfortable and you think that you're going to come out of it. And I think being optimistic is a very, very good quality to have for an entrepreneur. When people say they want to be entrepreneurs, there is all this thing that gets painted about being an entrepreneur, about how you have to sacrifice, how you have to live with nothing, how it's so risky. I don't know if any of that is true. I think you become an entrepreneur because that's what you want to do. And so you have to find your passion. You have to be very sure. You cannot just become an entrepreneur because you think in 3-4 years you're going to get rich and happily live ever after. Because a lot of times it doesn't happen. Sometimes you do get lucky and that may happen. But if you make a commitment to actually pursue things that you really enjoy doing and you love doing, and you cut out everything else in your life, to others it may look like sacrifice because you're living on nothing and that's all you're doing and you're doing 18 hours a day. But for you, that's the biggest gift you could ever have. And so I think if people pursue their own passion and enjoy doing what they're doing, they may or may not be successful in the first attempt, but then there's chances to improve in the second, if not the second, the third, if not the third, the fourth. So an entrepreneurship should be perceived more as a career choice as opposed to a one-time lottery ticket. I'm a big believer that, if you want to live a fruitful life and a productive life, you have to stay connected to the world. I think it's very important that when people either become successful or innovate in their own world, a lot of successful people tend to sort of live in a bubble, whether it's at a big corporation or otherwise. In a big corporation, you become a big shot and you get like 5 vice presidents to work for you, and they become your window into the world. When you do that, you sort of cut out the real information. And if you want to reinvent yourself, if you want to really have fun with things, you need real information. And to get real information, you have to get connected with the world. You have to be talking to young people. You have to be talking to those new ideas. And what I find is that the work that I'm doing at MIT, where We try to connect people outside of MIT to MIT. At the beginning, people were saying, why would people want to do that? Why would the people who make money, who have full-time jobs, want to spend their time to come and spend time at MIT? But it turns out that exactly for that reason, because people who are experts in whatever the area they have, they cannot retain that expertise and freshness of ideas unless they connect back with young minds and young people. It's something that the philanthropy should encourage, because I think if you bring a lot of these multidisciplinary things together, that's where you have the biggest innovation. Even in universities today, if you want to find a cure for cancer, you're not going to find it by just having the best biologist or the best engineer or the best electrical engineer. And that's what's amazing at MIT now. You really see civil engineering and mechanical and aeronautical. They all come together and they're all solving cancer problems, right? So the innovation can come from any new dimension. People ask me often about my philanthropic effort. I and my wife, I don't see a lot of difference between starting a company and doing any philanthropic effort. All of it is making a difference. You live in a world, and you think something could be better. If something could be better, you want to make it better, right? And typically you have only two things that you can use: your resources and your time. Your time and the funds that you have. And so that's how we look at philanthropy. So philanthropy to us means, how could you use those resources to make it a better world in whatever way you define that better world to be? And the biggest leverage that you have in making this a better world is to actually create a lot of entrepreneurs, because every entrepreneur who then becomes passionate and tries to work on something has a huge leverage, because he pulls in another 1,000 people to make it a better place. What's exciting to me about the work in India is the fact that there's a lot of innovation there. And innovation happens because of necessity in a lot of ways. So there are two things in India that are huge problems. Number one, the population. It's millions and millions of people, and very low affordability. But that existed even when I was in India. When I left India in 1973, we still had the same problem. Lots of people, very low affordability. But what's different, the new ingredient that I see in India today, is this newfound confidence. There's about 1% of the population in India which has very global perspective, because constantly they're sitting there solving problems for Tokyo and New York and Washington. And so they have the management skills, the confidence, they're not scared of numbers, they're not scared of technology. And so our philanthropic effort in India is to really bring those two segments together. And India is one of the unique places where you have both of them. You have people who are very smart, but you also have these millions of people who can't read and write, and there's poverty and all that kind of stuff. And the programs that we're working on is where you bring them together. So a lot of the technological innovation in India, both in the for-profit, non-profit sector, are all related to this huge innovation, making solutions available at costs that are not conceivable. In the past, for the last 200-300 years in science and technology, innovation has always gone from developed countries to developing countries. It's developed countries, you develop products. When you don't have any use for them, you send them there. And so an MIT engineer sitting there who thinks that you can make a service available, let's say a cell phone service available for $40 a month. If you make that service available for $20 a month or $10 a month, that's innovation, right? Because innovation is usually associated with economics. But suddenly you go to India and you see that the average cost of a cell phone is actually $3-4 a month. And you can actually recharge a phone for 10 rupees, which is like 2 cents. So you can actually add phone cards in 2 cents worth of increments and actually use that phone. And it's not like these guys are not making money. The telephone companies in India are producing 20% bottom line. And so that, to me, is innovation. And that innovation happens just because of necessity. Because if you can make those solutions available at that affordable cost, you have a huge market that just grows. And so I'm very excited about making those solutions available, because there's over 3-4 billion people in the world who can't afford things. And so far, the world has waited for the top 1 billion people to bring solutions to these 4 billion people. But I think the people in the top 1 billion people have no concept of how low cost this needs to be. And the fact that people within that bottom 3, 4 billion people can now invent solutions for themselves is what's really exciting.